Yo, so people, it is Crash Bang Wallop, and we have 3 fights to cover. The first fight was the first fight, right? It was the light heavyweights. We had Diyar Nurgozhay against Uran Satybaldiev. Probably. Yeah, I mean, I butchered those names, you know what I mean? But Diyar started off well, landed some good shots, right? Landed some good shots, It was doing his thing. But, you know what I mean? Like, you can be doing well until you're not. That's how it goes sometimes, right? Fighting is just one of them sports, and Uran landed a great right hand, put Diyar down, right? He's on top and, lands a few shots, but he then goes to lock up a Kimura, and he's kind of close, right? He didn't quite have full control, right? But doesn't panic. He keeps position, right? And that's always the main thing. You lose one thing, hey, keep your cool, keep position, go to the next. And that's what he did, right? He locked up an Ezekiel from the top, right? A bit like, oh my days, I forget homie's name, right? The, what did they call him? The Python? I think it was something like that. That Russian dude. Olenek, right? Sergey Olenek, I think it was, right? But yeah, he mounted Ezekiel choke, and Diyar had no response, right? All he could do was tap, and that was a wrap for him. So we then jump to our penultimate fight on the prelims. We had the flyweights, Kavanagh against Charles Johnson. And, I went with Kavanagh. And I think a load of people did, right? And it wasn't a diss on Johnson. Because as I said in the preview, Johnson is really fucking good. But it was just, man, this Kavanagh puts it together so well. And watching this fight, yeah, Kavanagh was doing everything right. You know what I mean? He was looking really freaking good, especially the first round. In the first round, he was just putting it on Johnson, darting in and out. You see, Kavanagh had the speed, right? And Johnson was just slightly behind, just slightly, just missing on a shot. And so Kavanagh was looking really good. And he was going for takedowns. Now, I think Johnson's corner had it a little right. Like I think those takedowns maybe weren't in the plan, because you did think Kavanagh had slowed slightly in the second. Now, he wasn't huffing and puffing, right? But he was looking a little bit slower. I think as well, he had been doing so well that I think he was feeling himself a little bit as well, And Johnson was doing a lot better in the second. Now, I do believe Kavanagh was still winning the second round, but Johnson was landing a lot more. He was definitely landing a lot more and having more success in the fight, right? So maybe he comes and wins the third or does something in the third. I don't know. But we were close to the end on the second round, and you'd go, Kavanagh has probably still won that second round, right? But as I said, Kavanagh feeling himself a little bit. And as he's exiting, from an engagement, his hands are down, right? And that was the thing. In the first round, hands are up. In the second round, he's been a bit more lax with his defense, and he's not keeping his hands up as much. And so he's exiting out, hands are down, and Johnson cracks him with a right hand. Pow! Oh my gosh. He's out when he gets hit by that right? That hook put him out. Now, Johnson, I think he landed a 2 extra. And, I will say, in the heat of the moment, is he out? Is he not? I mean, it's probably hard to tell. But, yeah, I think he got woken up by the shots on the ground. But, yeah, that was it. Donald Kavanagh no longer with the O, right? His first loss. I think it's probably going to be a valuable one, though. I think it's going to be a valuable one because, as I said, he was winning the fight. Right? And it will show and tell him, hey, in that situation, keep your fucking hands up still. Anything can happen in the UFC. You're fighting a higher caliber than you were in Cage Warriors, son. You gotta keep your fucking hands up. So we'll definitely tell him that. Also, he wasn't tired, but he definitely had slowed slightly from that first round. And I think that will also tell him, okay, right, to be a complete fighter, you want to mix in takedowns for sure. But to do that, the cardio needs to be there. So you cannot be at that point where you're slowing down in a second. You know what I mean? So I think this fight will definitely give him those 2 huge takeaways. Because, as I said, he was winning that fight. So there isn't a whole lot to go, oh, we were doing this wrong, we were doing that wrong. You know what I mean? He just needs to work on those 2 things, I feel. And the stealing is still high on Crosbie. On Kavanagh. Crosbie was later. On Kavanagh, right? Now, Charles Johnson, right? What Charles Johnson shows, you know what I mean? You can put it on me in the first. You can put it on me in the second. But if you give me an opportunity, I will fuck you up. Did it to Joshua Van. Now he's done it to Lonnie Kavanagh. So Charles Johnson shows he ain't no joke, right? And he's always dangerous. So you gotta watch the fuck out, right? So mad props to Charles Johnson, man. Mad props to Charles Johnson. So we end this with the first fight of the main card. We have Kiefer Crosbie against Taiyilake Nueraji, I think. Now, this fight, there is some controversy over this fight, right? Now, Nurgozhay is winning the fight, right? He's winning the fight. Crosbie is trying. He's coming forward, but Nurgozhay is just landing those shots, doing his thing. And Crosbie tried for a takedown. Nurgozhay stuffed it. And he hit Crosbie with a knee. Now, it is a little confusing with these rules, right? Because I thought it was a safe knee because he had one knee. The knee wasn't on the ground, but the leg, some of the leg was on the ground. The other leg was up. Right, he was he was in the process of standing. So I thought you had to have both right knees on the mat to be grounded. But maybe, right, this was the old rules. I'm not sure, right? It's confusing when not everyone is using the same set of rules. But it was an illegal knee. And he did hit Crosbie flush. Did hit him flush. We'll say that. Now, Goddard did a good job of taking 2 points, right? I think 2 points is definitely fair with something like an illegal knee because, let's be honest, even with 5 minutes, you're still going to be a little fucked, right? You're still going to be a little fucked. You know, so if a legal lead hits, you want to hope it's at like 4:55. You know what I mean? Like, so then you don't have a lot of time to mess around, right? Then you've got, you know, that extra minute in between. But yeah. So the doctor came in, looked at a cut that Crosbie had received. Cut's fine, right? Points are taken. Guy's like, are you good? Crosby's like, yes, I'm ready to fight. So then they restart the fight. Now, Crosbie didn't get 5 minutes. And you just think, ooh, boy, right? Oh boy, that's not a good one. Because literally what you thought would happen, happened, right? So Crosbie did the right thing, goes for a takedown. Because, you know, if you get a takedown, you're on top. If you can control it, gives yourself time to get your faculties back together. Wasn't to be the case. Nurgozhay stuffs the takedown, gets on top of Crosbie, and just starts to rain down elbows. Rain those elbows down. Goddard gave a couple of warnings. Crosbie can't do shit because, you know, he's already dazed from, you know, earlier, and then getting a couple of elbows to the dome. Yeah, that's not going to help one little bit. Fight is over. So when you look at that, right, he didn't get the 5 minutes. Should he get the 5 minutes? Yes, there are 5 minutes to be allocated. But the thing is, you can say, I'm ready, and the fight will start. You don't have to take the full 5. But in this situation, I feel Crosby's corner should say he needs the full 5. Right? His corner should be like, how much time do we have left? Right? And you say, we got, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is. It'd be like, yeah, we're taking those. Right? The corner, that's what your corner is there for. Right? People might say Goddard should have given him the 5. Goddard ain't there to do anyone any favors. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, are you sure? I'll give you. No. Right? If he says, are you ready to fight? You say yes. Are you sure? Yep. Yep. Then it's fight time. You know what I mean? Like, your corner should be advocating on your behalf and saying, yeah, I'm not ready. Right? Give him the full 5 minutes. Give him the full 5 minutes. Or at least shouting to Crosbie and saying, take 5. Take the 5. Take the 5. Right? Didn't. And what happened is, clearly what was always going to happen. Now, Crosbie was, it wasn't like he was winning the fight up to that point, right? But again, it's fighting, so no one knows what's going to happen. Look at, Charles Johnson was losing that fight and then he's won it, right? So anything can happen. But with this one, I think the corner is the one at fault more than Goddard. Now, Goddard could go, you know what, I'm not even going to ask you if you're ready. I'm just going to wait 5. Goddard could have done that, but he doesn't. It's not necessarily his responsibility to do that. So with this one, I say it's the corner, right? But that is the 3 fights. That was Crash Bang Wallop. And now we get to more finishes with What a Rush.